Hi, this is Father Ryan Ford. I'm a priest of the Diocese of Marquette. I'm here just to give a few little tips about how to go about helping someone take their next step in wherever they are in their walk with God. We, as we come side by side, walking with them, just kind of want to identify where they are in their walk with God and help them take their next step and encourage that. And a good strategy that we can use to do this is to use the strategy called One Good Reason. This is recommended by the St. Paul Street Evangelization Organization out of Detroit. And they say we want to identify, say for instance, someone doesn't believe in God, and they say they're an atheist. Well, we can say, can I give you one good reason why I choose to believe in God? And if that's the case, if that's the example, we can tell them, well, if I see a watch come out of the sea, the ocean, or the lake, Lake Michigan, or Lake Superior, and it just washes up on shore. That's a really complex instrument. And just the fact of the watch's existence means that it came into being somehow. And you look at the complexity of that watch. And you say, it's hard to believe that watch would have just, through millions of years, kind of parts came together and got arranged such that now it tells time perfectly. I don't believe that. That would be hard to believe. And then we could say, when I look at the whole universe, and I look at cells and DNA, and just take, for instance, the human eye, that no camera has been able to match the power of the human eye and its intricate designs and the whole universe, I say it's hard for me to believe that would just come randomly into existence. And so one reason why I believe in God is just the existence of this intricate design of the universe and the human biology and everything in it. And you can also say, well, there's also other proofs for the existence of God. For instance, miracles. Maybe you can tell stories of things that you've seen happen in your life or other people's lives through your own personal testimony of that. You can also say things like, have you ever heard of Fatima? And you can tell the story of Our Lady of Fatima appearing to the children in Portugal and the sun dancing and tens of thousands of people seeing the sun move backwards on its course and people writing about it in the papers. And give little pamphlets about the existence of God, CDs about Fatima, to help people just kind of consider maybe God really does exist. Take another situation, maybe someone who says they believe in God but they're not yet a Christian. You could say, well, could I give you one good reason why I choose to believe in Jesus? And some ways you can do this is just to get them to consider that Jesus was crucified as a criminal. And you can say, do you know why Jesus was crucified as a criminal? And they might say, well, I don't really know that. I don't really know why. And then we can explain that Jesus was crucified. There's plenty of reliable historical documents that Jesus was put to death for saying things that no ordinary human being would say without being thought that they were crazy or that they were just outright lying. And Jesus said that we had to believe in him, and the only way to get to heaven was to follow after him, and that we had to keep his commandments and eat his flesh and blood, and that he was the only one with authority to forgive sins in the name of God. So this is just blasphemous or crazy, or it's true. And if I told you that I was God and the only way that you could get to heaven would be following after me and obeying my commandments and loving me above all things, would you believe me? You'd think I was crazy or I was lying to you or something. How would I prove it? Well, Jesus, he rose from the dead. He said he was going to die for our sins. He performed miracles. He gave sight to people who were blind. He cured people with illnesses. And he rose from the dead, and people saw him. Hundreds of people Jesus appeared to after he rose from the dead. And we would think, well, maybe you're not so crazy if you did that. And then if I said, hey, my buddy, he rose from the dead. And you might say, how would I believe that? And I said, well, if I pray in this guy's name and people are healed, then you'll believe me. And I did it. Well, that might make you think, well, maybe this is true. And that's what the apostles did. And many of them went to death for the sake of that testimony to Jesus. And miracles are still happening today. And you can explain miracles, you can explain Fatima. And you say, well, I just think of all these things and I think, you know what? That's pretty credible evidence that Jesus is more than just an ordinary human being, and I have a responsibility then to give my whole life to him. If he's not crazy and he's not a liar, but he's really the Lord. Another instance might be someone who's Christian, but they don't believe that they're not Catholic. And then we can say, well, could I give you one reason why I choose to be Catholic? And in this way we can talk about Jesus' promise to Peter in chapter 16 of Matthew, where he told the apostles that he was going to build his church on the rock of Peter. And that from that time there's been a pope, There's been bishops, and the apostles laid hands upon other people to succeed them. And the only church that's been universal and started right there at Jesus' time and continues to this day is the Catholic Church. And there's been other break-offs from the Catholic Church. But the question really comes down to is, how do we know what Jesus said? How do we even know what books of the Bible are the books of the Bible? How do we even know where the truth is? Because we have the Bible, but it gets interpreted in so many ways. Some people say baptism is necessary for salvation. Some people say it's not. Some people say all we need to do is believe in Jesus and we're saved. Some people say we got to keep his commandments. Some people say that once you're saved, you're always saved and you can't lose it. Others say no, you can sin and lose your salvation. How do we know what's the truth? It's a huge problem. And the idea is that Jesus never intended to leave us without an authority to guide us and to know what the truth is, so we can be sure about what to believe and how to get to heaven. And so he founded his infallible church to be able to teach us and hand on the faith down through the ages. And we can say when I realized that, that's why I knew I had a responsibility to be in that church and be a Catholic. And the final situation that a lot of people are in is maybe they're Catholic, but they don't come to Mass. And we find out that that's the situation that they're in. And we can say, can I give you one good reason why I choose to go to Mass every week? And we can say, I know it's necessary for my salvation, because if I knew that a friend of mine was in town every week and they were here visiting and they wanted me to come visit, and I just never did. And I always blew them off, and I said I had other things to do. And so I can't get to heaven if I don't love God, and loving God means keeping his commandments. And he told us that he wanted one of his commandments, the third commandment, it's higher than murder, is to keep holy the Sabbath and go to Mass and worship the Lord and love him. And so we can say, I choose to do this because I know it's for my salvation. I know it's because I need that relationship with God, and this is the way that I keep that relationship with God going. As I pray, as I avoid serious sin, as I love the Lord by going to Mass. And then we can testify just maybe experiences that we have about going to confession and how it's experienced the Lord's mercy and love in our life and freedom from our sins and power to overcome them. And so I hope this is helpful for you to maybe face some situations that are common and think about your own one good reason why you do these things, so that you can share them with other people and help them think about taking their next step.